grid is live. Initiate.
Excellent!
I'm not interrupting anything, am I?
Bogus.
Are you telling me that you built a time machine? Out of a DeLorean?
My name's Norman Bates.
Oh, man, I'm so excited. I'm in, Mom.
Merry Christmas, movie home! We came, we saw, we kicked his ass.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
Everything's under control. Situation normal.
Oh, well. Let me go in and say hi.
Hail to the king, baby.
Happy Sunday, everyone. How are you doing? It is the PJ Campbell Show. Welcome back. I hope you guys are all doing well during your quarantines. It's going to be a very, interesting episode because, speaking of the quarantine, we're going to be talking a lot about it and its effects on the movie industry. I'm your host, PJ Campbell. It's good to see everyone. Of course, I couldn't be here today without one man. His name is Evan Degraff. Hi, Evan.
How you doing there, PJ?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm okay. It's been a day. I woke up this morning and then I realized summer isn't a thing for me anymore. Like I can't go get drunk on a beach if I wanted to.
None of us can do that. None of us can really do that.
But I'm now going through that period. So today, in honor, I decided to wear my shirt that I bought in St. Thomas. Probably a tourist trap, but it's a shirt I revere. So we're just kind of in a mood. But I am really excited for this, and thank you, Robert. I really hope it's screaming at you because that's the job. That's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, well, look, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad that you're in a mood, and with your mood, go ahead and how about you do the rundown? What do we got going on this week, and what did we have going on last night?
I feel like every time I do the rundown before we totally get into it, I need that Ken Knapsack, the news music behind me.
It's totally the news with Ken Knapsack. Yeah.
Anyways, last night we did family game night with Tom Dagnino and Tim Franco doing Cards Against Humanity. It was a really tight match. Actually, we went a little bit over because we had to do some tiebreakers. But check out who won last night. It was a really good time. Tim and Tom, really funny dudes. Now that I realize when you put their names together, it's kind of funny, Tim and Tom. But again, make sure you guys pop out for that.
I gotta say real quick too, we've gotten a lot of feedback. Like a lot of people have reached out to me and talked about how much they loved the episode because it really took them out of what's been going on, which has been really, really nice. It's really humbling for us to be able to entertain you guys for 2 hours, especially with something so ridiculously easy as Cards Against Humanity. And yet everyone said it was just like 2 hours of pure fun and they laughed and smiled. That's what I like to hear.
And then also like with that, next week we're doing Jackbox. It's the first Saturday of every month. So make sure you guys check out Jackbox. It was our first ever family game night machine. It's going to carry that same energy that Cards Against Humanity did. And then tomorrow, Lilo and Stitch, the watch along. We called some shots on this one, and I'm glad we're doing it. We're having James White on, Pat,
Maxwell Haddad as well.
Maxwell. I forget Maxwell every fucking stream, and I don't mean to because I love that guy. Like one of my favorite people. And for some reason, I always
feel like
him.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I feel bad for him. Like every time we do this, you're always talking about everyone else, and Maxwell gets left out. And Maxwell has done so much for us, and I don't know why you keep forgetting about him. But yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be a good stream. Probably an emotional stream, but we're going to get through it. We're going to do this together. Ohana means family. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. And talking about one of my least favorite people in the chat, I'm interviewing Abby Friel.
I can't believe she's actually watching us live.
I know it's weird, but she said we're one of our we're her least favorite people. So I got to call her out. I'm one of my least favorite people. Interviewing her Tuesday, 10 p.m. EST. We're actually gonna be talking about community and kind of what it means to be in a community and kind of the very blurry line of fandom and what that means. I'm really excited for this conversation because PJ, you and I talked about this a little bit off there. It's one that kind of has to be had.
I know, and I'm also thinking about kicking her out of the chat right now.
Why?
I don't know. The least favorite people thing got under my skin.
Clearly, Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm the one in the mood. Jesus, PJ. And then Wednesday we have suddenly soundtracks. The watch along. They're doing Mary Poppins watch on, and then we're on Thursday that next day. Myself and Rachel Silverstream join Chris Clark and talk about the soundtrack of Mary Poppins, which I adore. It's really smart, actually, the way how they go about a couple of the songs. I fight for a song that the others don't like as much, but it's really interesting because we all see music differently, and really excited for that. And then
what
Friday,
I'm really excited about on that though is The Greatest Showman is going to have a watch along. Number one, and then Chris is actually going to re-air that old episode of Suddenly Soundtracks. It's going to be rebroadcast. So if you guys have never seen it, it's amazing. It's 3 hours, I think, just about. Evan and I battle throughout that episode, and it's amazing.
It's so good. It's funny, like looking back, I cannot remember a musical that was so mediocre, yet the music was so
God. Every time you fucking say that,
every time. And then Friday, Ryan Johnson month starts. We start with Brick. I have never seen Brick, and I've heard nothing but great things about it. So, and I'm gonna add this man in right now. Jacob, you're joining us for Ryan Johnson month. How do you feel?
I'm really, really excited to actually be a part of Ryan Johnson month and actually watch all these movies. I'm going to be on all 5. Me and Taylor together are going to be on all 5, and I'm really excited.
It's really unfortunate that you guys are trying to take over the channel like that.
I'm sorry for that. I mean, it's not like you guys have been on like a lot of our shows lately as well. So, it's this whole thing like cross promoting or something. What's
I don't know. Also, you know who else is on Brick on Friday night is Maxwell Haddad, who you also forgot about again.
Wait, can you tell me who Max is? I keep forgetting.
Oh, God damn it, Evan.
But anyways, that's kind of our rundown. I'm really excited. We like the content, PJ and I, and even Jacob to extent, like we keep talking about this. The content somehow keeps getting better, or like we keep like upping our expectations of ourselves and how we can push forward. Again, I'm really tired today. I'm sorry, but I'm really excited.
I know, man. It's been quite the adventure as we kind of set off to chart this course with this YouTube channel, and I think we're actually doing a lot. Someone already disliked the vid. Thank you, Chris Woodburn, for giving us a heads up. That happened very quickly. So, if you guys haven't liked the video, make sure you like it already, and that'll help, fix that down below. Yeah, man, with everything going on in the world coming to a stop, I didn't know that we could do this, and yet here we are. And we're going to be 12 movie watch-alongs deep by tomorrow night, which feels utterly bizarre. And like the swath of movies.
But what's deeper, 12 inches or 12 movies?
Really, Evan?
I'm so sorry.
Really? Right now, that's your question?
This is my... Wow. Okay.
So I guess it's just going to be Jacob and I the rest of the show if it's going to keep being
like that. This is going to be a lot. This is my first ever PJ Campbell show, and it's going to be a long one.
That is not true.
Okay, sorry. It's my first one where I'm on camera and actually talking.
Correct. Because you were in the episode where Diego and I had like a one-on-one interview, and you were there the entire time.
Yes.
And we even talked to you at one point, I think, off mic, and no one can hear you, but we're definitely talking to you.
Yes.
Well, we're glad to have you. Welcome to the show. This is going to go very, very well. I can already tell. So, first off, I got to ask you, Jacob, because you're on another part of the planet than the rest of us. How is this stuff with COVID been affecting you guys down under with the shrimps on the Barbie and what have you?
So Outback Steakhouse had to close, sadly.
Unfortunate, really. The Blooming Onion is great.
Yeah, we can't go to Outback Steakhouse. Now, in all seriousness, it has affected a lot. Clearly, I'm working from home. Like, I'm one of the lucky ones where I still actually did keep my job. But I'm working from home. It's currently midday here, and I'm taking an extended break so that I can be a part of this show today. So my boss was cool with that, which was good. But I mean, the impact we've had has been really on, in terms of from the film space, has been, we just haven't, our theaters have been straight up closed since March. We haven't been able to go to movies either. But we also have had this weird thing of like Trolls. We haven't had, Trolls hasn't come out here yet. Right. That's still getting a cinema release in September. Onward only came out to Disney Plus this week. Onward never technically got a Australian theater release at all. Like it's weird things like that there's things that we just never got, and that's been the impact that we've really felt.
Your country feels so backwards every time we start talking about movie distribution and stuff, because there's times that you guys won't get things for months after we do. And I really just don't understand that. It's just so crazy to me. But, you know, it's not just you. I mean, it's all of us. Look at all the stuff we're kind of dealing with. And to that point, like with Trolls did very well for itself on VOD when it was released. And it did like $50 million, I think, so far, just on a VOD release on its own, which is ridiculous because no movie had really performed like that on VOD. And of course, this is just a rental because Universal is not letting people buy anything. It's all just rentals, which is a very weird. I don't agree with that. I think that the $20 price tag for just renting something is absurd in a way. I like everyone else's model where they're actually putting them up for sale, but I digress.
I think I think with Trolls, it's also a little more conspicuous because it's meant for families at home. And
Right.
I think their whole idea, and I can see it. They're now in the mindset of, oh, we can't charge movie tickets. So what's the closest to movie tickets that we can get? Because we don't want our full movie. We don't want someone owning our full movie. Are they going to get it illegally? Maybe, but are parents going to care enough to do that? No.
I think we'll get to. I think we're going to get to this later, but I think Warner Brothers have the best strategy. And how they handled their movie, I think is so far the best strategy.
I 100% agree, and that's kind of what I was getting to because I think Universal was the one who out the gate was when all this started was like, we're doing the VOD thing. This is what we're doing, and they put The Hunt, they put The Invisible Man, and there was something else, and I don't remember. Emma. Thank you. And so that was there.
So if you haven't seen Emma, it is one of the best movies of the year. Go freaking see it. Rent it.
I have not seen it yet. I plan on renting it, but it's also $20, and I decided to, buy the Naked Gun trilogy for $20 instead. So, what are you going to do? The bigger thing is I love the idea of the rental, but I think that it should also come with the caveat that when it becomes purchasable, that you should be able to buy it at either a reduced price or you get like grandfathered in essentially. And that's where Universal has failed. And this is where Warner Brothers, who is playing up this whole thing with Scoob and what they're doing, and they're putting it out on May 15th. So it's still coming out on its release date, but on VOD, you'll be able to rent it for $20 or buy it for $25. So for $5 more, you can own it. And that is like the smart play and the long-term play. And it's also going against what Evan's been talking about, which is the idea of, the potential of having to rent it again to get, the return tickets that the box office loves to see. However, I also think that Warner Brothers is making a mistake because I think it should be on HBO Max.
Yes.
I think that they are 100% dropping the ball and not using Scoob as a launch title 2 weeks later.
I kind of agree with you there. However, at the same time, part of me understands maybe there is a contract issue for why. There could be something in there that says that they can't put it straight to a streaming service.
I mean, I would agree with you if they weren't still doing VOD.
Fair. I feel like there is a difference, and I think a lot of people need to understand the difference between people say VOD and people say streaming. There is a difference, and I think there is a lot of difference in contracts. And I think there is, and again, I don't have any evidence to back this up, but I think that could be a reason behind why they haven't put it on HBO Max is because there is something in contracts that say it's got to go to a rental market first. Like it has to go to some market first.
Real quick as we're talking about this. So this is interesting. I don't know if you guys know this, but Late to the Party just brought up, have you guys used Peacock yet? They say it sucks. First impression is the interface is unnecessarily complex and discombobulated. So for those who don't know, Peacock is actually Comcast Universal's new streaming service, and it's only currently in like a very limited beta testing. And I think you have to be you have a cable provider. Yeah, so you have to have Xfinity to have it. And I don't love the sound of that. That's already really frustrating, but I also am willing to give them the benefit of the doubt that by the time it launches officially in July, that the interface will be different.
It's funny that nearly sounds like the reverse Disney Plus problem, where the interface was too simplistic and it was just not working the way it should have. Like I find that really interesting, where like Disney Plus didn't do enough, yet we're now seeing Peacock doing too much.
Right.
It kind of shows the balance of studios and kind of like the push and pull, the attraction of things, as you could call it. I'm not surprised. NBC needs this streaming service to work because they don't really have an other outlet right now other than, hey, on your cable package you can buy our movies here. This is really important for them, but they named their streaming service Peacock, so
I actually like the name.
Of course you do. Okay, so on the conversation real quick, though, of the Scoob situation and the bigger kind of implications it has, my bigger thing right now is I just wonder if HBO Max would have been the better bet for me personally, because I think HBO Max is being very forward with animation. That's like their big sell right now, is that Warner Brothers has basically botched their animation front for 15 years. And so they're really putting a forward drive on, look at, we are bringing the Looney Tunes back. We have like 100 new shorts. We're doing the Hanna-Barbera universe. We're doing all of this stuff. Plus all of our old cartoons are on here. Like, you're going to love it if you love animation. So why is it that the Scooby-Doo film, that is a Hanna-Barbera universe starting origin film, not the thing you lead with literally 2 weeks later? I think that the drive to make money off of Scooby-Doo is a little concerning, considering there is so much Scooby-Doo content literally every year. Like, there's usually at least 2 direct-to-video movies and still the TV show. That, for me, the idea that you're also trying to milk it up front and try to play the short game and make money off this movie hurts Warner Brothers and the property in the long run, when you can put it on HBO Max, get more subscribers, have more people view it, and then potentially you get a sequel and you could literally do spinoffs off of it.
Right. And it's funny, to be fair, you and I just had this conversation on Michael K's podcast, Tuned Up, which is, I think, premiering sometime midweek this week. My other issue is, and especially right now when media has probably been as different as it's ever going to be for a long time, where like we're in this spot where the only places where you can consume movies, TV, any that kind of form of media is literally in front of the couch or on your tablet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you need to invest in that. You need to invest on what people are going to pay for monthly, in and out. And I personally think $15 is steep. So why the hell would I want to go rent Scoob and then go pay for HBO Max when I'm already interested in Scoob? And I'm like, you know what? I'll pay for HBO Max for a month and see if I like it, because I'll go watch Scoob. That pays for the price for that thing. And now I'm a continued customer for HBO Max month after month, which is fantastic. But I feel like, and here's the other thing, Scoob could flop. Scoob has the very real possibility of flop. Thank you, Jacob. Your audio is great. Has the very real possibility of flopping. Which, and if you look at it that way, the safer bet would be to put it on streaming. And there's also the Harley Quinn situation, which is even worse when you look into it. I just can't understand why Warner Brothers doesn't want to invest in itself and just get the short money, because we know they have money in the bank. They're not going to go bankrupt.
No, especially now that AT&T just bought them.
Right. So it's confusing to me from a business standpoint when you literally could be investing in so many people who'd be buying HBO Max right now. And the worst part is they don't even have the Potter franchise on there, which is a different conversation for a different day.
There is a real conversation to be had about the fact that one of the things they should have announced up front, in my opinion, is a Wizarding World TV series of any sort. That should have easily been one of the first things that they had on the docket to sell this, in the same way that Disney Plus announced The Mandalorian, like a Star Wars show would be at launch. I think that they botched that completely.
What's even Jacob, what's even ironic about that? The Lord of the Rings show that's producing right now is on fucking Amazon.
Yep.
Yeah. And look, I'd love to actually sit down and have a proper, like, full-blown discussion about HBO Max on another episode, just because, yeah, there's a lot of things about HBO Max that we can talk about. But just going back to the impact, like with Scoob, I agree with you that it probably should have, but this is also the business decision. I get the business decision of this movie probably cost them $150 million to make.
I don't think it was that expensive, personally.
Okay. Well, okay. So let's say it's $100 million. An animated film that it's $100 million, and that's $100 million. You got to put that. Is that an investment you're willing to put into HBO Max, or are you going to try and reap some of your some of the money back?
See, I would understand that if I also didn't think that they were just not investing in their own IP. Like, this just feels like them deciding that Scoob was destined not to work. And that, for me, like, I don't understand that business mindset. If you're just going to write it off, then you might as well just move it to HBO Max, because I think if you're asking people to pay $20 to $25 for this and they don't like it, you're likely not going to get people to come back and re-rent it. Whereas if you just put it on HBO Max, people may not like it, but there's other content for them to be there, and you drive the viewers on top of it, you'll actually retain people in the end, even if they don't love it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna shout out Tuned Up again, but we also mentioned some of the Tuned Up thing. It really mirrors their Harley Quinn situation and how they completely botched the next season of Harley Quinn as it's moving to Sci-Fi, a Comcast network, where you literally have this streaming platform where you could put it, or another channel in Cartoon Network where you could put it. And look, I don't want to shit on Warner Brothers, and I know it sounds like it. It's just a lot of their decisions are really confusing, because when you have so many different forms of media on so many different forms of platform, you want one central location to get your shit, and it's not there. You're making it more inaccessible than it needs to be.
I also think that we're looking at Warner Brothers, and again, you're right. You are right there. But Warner Brothers is also it's the same as Sony. They sell their content. Yeah. So clearly that's what they've done with Harley Quinn. They've just sold the content. They've made it, and then they sold it to someone else, because they clearly don't have the, I guess, confidence in it performing going forward, which, yeah.
Mike K says, just to clarify, it's season 1. So essentially season 1 is rebroadcasting on Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah, so it's syndicating. It's syndicating on Sci-Fi.
It still seems strange, though, when you have Cartoon Network right there. That's my bigger thing. It's like you literally have Adult Swim.
Yeah, true.
Which, you know,
right, and that's my whole thing, because the Harley Quinn show, to me, it legitimately sells the idea of what Samurai Jack did when it came back. Samurai Jack's return season on Adult Swim was sold to the people who grew up on Cartoon Network and the Samurai Jack series, and they realized that, oh, all these people are adults now. Now we have to sell it to them in that way. Harley Quinn is selling itself straight to the fans of Batman the Animated Series, in my opinion. And I think that you are underselling it by putting it on Sci-Fi Channel, where Sci-Fi Channel, owned by Universal Comcast, is not even in your wheelhouse, and that doesn't even really fit their brand anymore. Sci-Fi Channel doesn't really even have an identity. They've totally botched their. Remember when they were Sci-Fi Channel, then they stopped being Sci-Fi Channel, then they came back as the new Sci-Fi Channel, and they completely botched that entire rebranding of, hey, we are for nerds and people will like us. I don't think they ever really landed that mark coming back, and now this just feels so strange.
I think there's a lot of uncertainty right now, and I wish now would be the time where we actually see a bunch of a bunch of studios taking risks, because now would be the time to. You have limited options, so take advantage of those limited options and push for something that people wouldn't think of, you know?
Yes and no. I agree with you and I disagree with you. You are right that there are limited options right now. The problem you've got is a lot of if you're saying like a lot of these properties, there's contracts that are already in place. There are stuff that isn't very easily undone. However, going forward, you are not going to see studios take risks with movies. They're going to want the guaranteed hits, because movies aren't going to go, like, people are most likely not going to go to movies as much as they were, and studios are going to want the guaranteed hits more than the risks.
Well, I would agree with that if all of these studios also were not currently starting all these streaming services. I think you're going to see them taking risks. I think it's going to be on the smaller scale, and it's going to be the stuff that you put on the streaming services. That's why things like Lady and the Tramp, which would not have been a guaranteed hit, in my opinion, if you put it in theaters, putting it on the Disney Plus platform, now suddenly you're able to look at it and go, as long as people watch it and we hit like a certain bar, then it's covered and everything is fine.
That's when I subscribed to Disney Plus, was when Lady and the Tramp dropped.
Well, that was the first day. So,
you know what, Jacob? I don't have a good memory. You know what, Jacob London? Let me enjoy Tessa Thompson and Lady and the Tramp. All right. The movie is great. The movie is joyful. The movie is wonderful. And I subscribed to Disney Plus for that goddamn movie.
Okay. The other thing that I do just want to mention that I think would be interesting. Do you guys? I lost it. I had it, and Evan just distracted me with the Lady of the Tramp thing, and I lost it. I'm sorry.
That was beautiful. I do want to shout out real quick that when it came to Krypton, Matt Whitehurst says, "Good point, PJ. But what about that Superman prequel?" Again, that's to Jacob's point. That is exactly what I'm kind of putting Warner Brothers on blast for. Is that seems like it would have been the perfect show for, maybe putting it on their DC streaming service. And here's the other thing. They created a DC streaming service a year ago when they also knew that they were already working on HBO Max, and eventually that this service would have to be folded into it. As we already know, I believe Titans is going to be on HBO Max. So it's already like shuffling over. And I think it's also still going to be on DC Universe, but it becomes problematic. Like, you're splitting hairs unless you're going to take this streaming platform and consolidate it into what you're doing, or you repurpose the app to be a comic book app. So similar to Marvel Unlimited, where you have all this access to the old school DC comics and their video content, maybe you can get away with it. But the problem is that they created another streaming service while also knowing that they had another one on the horizon. You're literally just throwing money out a window and lighting it on fire.
It literally goes back to our conversation about inaccessibility. When you have so many different platforms under one fucking company, you are making things inaccessible. And I don't know why.
Abby wants to say she has the DC streaming service. I'm glad you have it, but it's probably not going to last.
I actually just remembered what I was going to say. Do you think it is possible that all these streaming services are now too late? That now that like HBO Max is going to open a little too late, because and again, it depends on when you guys fix all of this mess. But if it's not in, say it's in June when this is all fixed and theaters and places do start to open back in July, do you reckon that there is a chance that maybe Disney and Netflix and Amazon kind of got the foothold because of what just happened, and HBO Max and Peacock, which were already coming into an extremely crowded market, might not be able to hang on in that market and will drop off?
Peacock, maybe, less so in my opinion, HBO Max, because HBO Max, if you already have HBO, you're like grandfathered into this. So that isn't a big deal, and that works out in that person's favor, which is great. So for me, looking at it, I'm kind of just seeing it as, well, in the middle of a quarantine, in the middle of a fucking pandemic, this might be the perfect time for it to drop. In the same way that Disney Plus saw huge spikes once this started. HBO Max might see the same thing. Yeah, like, because people are going to want content.
I agree with you. I just think they're maybe a month late. I think HBO Max probably should have dropped a month and a half ago.
So here's my read on the situation, right? I look at Hulu and Disney Plus as one of the same. The money's going to the same place. A lot of the content is shared by one studio. That's my view of it. And I know it might be a little restricted and might be a little bit ignorant, but like in the grand scheme of things, it's going to the same place. for the most part. Again, there's a lot more intricacies, but Hulu and Disney Plus, right now, I would personally say have hold of this streaming war, and I think they're going to keep hold of it for a while. They're only going to keep growing as more original content gets dropped, and for the catalog that they have in the back, it's hard to compete with.
Well, like, but that's where Warner
and their price is fucking amazing. And then and they also have one of the best bundles. ESPN Plus, Hulu, and Disney Plus is only $13 a month.
But you also have to look, Warner Brothers is coming in hot. They're coming in with way more content than even Disney did. And it's content people love. And that goes a long way. And Jacob, I would totally agree with your point of the idea of them being too late. If you didn't literally see what Late to the Party was just talking about with the Peacock app. Like, if you put it out too early and you have people be like, oh, this is terrible, we don't want it to be here, then you're just going to lose a bunch of your people out the gate. And that's worse for you.
But that was the first reaction to Disney Plus. It was a terrible app on launch. It was awful.
But it wasn't even here. And it worked out fine. It had its own problems, but we still got the content. But if you have an app that is problematic to the point, the Peacock, where Robert and Vanessa are talking about it in the chat, they were saying that it's just clunky and it doesn't really work that well. And if you've got these ideas that they actually have channels apparently on it so that you can actually watch, like, put it on like you're channel surfing. Something like that's a decent idea if you're wanting to try to go back in time, but something like that doesn't necessarily work now. It's just a weird thing, man.
I don't know. See, I kind of like having, if you have that option. And that's my thing, is I'm fine for studios and everyone having that as an option, so that, hey, if I feel like, one of the biggest problems I have with Netflix and Disney Plus and streaming in general is human nature. You've got a breadth of choices and it takes you half an hour to figure out what do you feel like watching. Whereas if I can just go on if there is a channel that's got something that I like Simpsons, Archer, Friends, shows that I like, and it's just playing, and I'll probably just put that on in the background while I'm doing something. Or
that's the other thing we're not talking about. You just said it. The Friends aspect of the HBO Max thing is a huge deal. And that is a huge get, because when Netflix lost it, everyone for the last 6 months has not shut up about the fact that they can't stream Friends. I mean, without having that, they're going to flock to it. The fact that they've announced there's going to be a Friends reunion on that service is going to be enough to push that service at least until November.
Dude, the fandom around Friends is one of, I don't want to say it's confusing because I get it. It's just one of those things where, like, if Friends is at one place, everyone goes.
Exactly.
And it's so hard for me to get my mind around. I get it, but I don't at the same time.
Bro, you like How I Met Your Mother. You like the same show 10 years later.
But no, but I'm saying it's one of those hot commodities that, like, it's really rare to get an IP like that. I think that's my point. It's like, you don't see IPs like that.
I agree.
No, you're right. Yeah.
And that's why the WB tour is still popular in Los Angeles, because you can actually get your picture taken in Central Perk by the time you're done with it. Like, that is a selling point for that. So, looking at Robert, I've seen 2 episodes of Friends. I'm proud of you, my friend. We know that's there, and they're coming in with, like, TCM. They're coming in with all of this stuff. HBO Max looks pretty fucking sweet, all things being equal, coming in. I don't think they're too late to the game. I think they're coming in at maybe the perfect time. And it's kind of coming off, theoretically, if, stuff starts to hold, it could be coming off the curtail of this quarantine, which means that people are going back to work, if that is the case, which means now we have money to actually put into getting other streaming services.
Right.
It kind of works out in their favor. And there's always something to be said about that. And I said this on Mike K's podcast earlier. Think about it this way. With the Disney Plus bundle, or just getting Disney Plus for whatever the god-awfully small amount it is right now, and then you get HBO Max, you're looking at $22 a month for literally millions upon millions of hours of entertainment between 2 streaming services, and much better curated entertainment I think then when you look at Netflix, where Netflix has got like all sorts of random stuff, but there's no real curation to it. Like they might have Scream 1 and 4, but they don't have 2 and 3. Like it doesn't make any sense.
I've been always kind of in the middle of where I've thought Netflix is. This quarantine has proven to me Netflix is still number one, and it is dominating, and I don't know if it's ever going to be replaced. And the reason for that, it's Tiger King. You release Tiger King on any other streaming service, it is not the global phenomenon that it becomes. Any other streaming service, Tiger King is not a global phenomenon.
I don't know if I agree with that, because The Mandalorian clearly presented itself as a global phenomenon.
I know. Mandalorian did. A Star Wars baked-in property. Tiger King is a nothing, no-name documentary series, yet it had just as much cultural impact as Mandalorian did.
Yeah, maybe. But I would say that Tiger King in the long run, and again, it's because it's Tiger King, it's not Star Wars, and this is the Netflix problem, and this is the binging problem. And this is an entirely different conversation.
No, yes, I know that, yes.
Yeah, but it's the lightning in a bottle effect. You hit for 2 weeks, you're popular, and then it dies off and we move on to the next thing.
No, and I agree, but I'm more meaning that what I'm saying is if Tiger King dropped on any other streaming service, no other streaming service has the access that Netflix does right now. And I think if people are making the decision, what do we drop? I don't think they drop Netflix. I think Netflix is just baked into people that I have Netflix. They drop Peacock, or they drop HBO Max, or they drop Disney, because Disney is like, or they drop HBO Max because it's $15. $15 is a lot. I know, and Netflix is also a lot of money right now, but
I think it's the same price. The same price. But
they've had Netflix for 10 or for 5, 7, 6, 7 years. That they're not like, I have a Tiger King proved to me that no, I think Netflix is here to stay, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere anytime soon.
I would agree with you I also didn't think they were bleeding money, and they keep looking for the next thing that doesn't take off. I mean, look at how much money they pour into shows that no one watches, and then they cancel them after a season. And that's not just like normal network television. I mean, these are things that I've never heard of. And half the time I see that something's been canceled, I go, I didn't even know that existed, because they are terrible at marketing their own stuff.
What's funny about that too is like one of their most popular shows, 13 Reasons Why, is arguably one of the most problematic shows,
right?
Like that airs, which that's a whole different conversation. But like the matter of fact is, it's controversial, and it's hard to get past that. So,
but people watch it. It's controversial, but people watch it.
People watch it, but controversial content only lasts so long.
So Mike K brings up a really good point. He says, what about Amazon Prime? And here's my read on Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime is something great for people who are using Amazon to order things. And it comes as a kind of like a package deal with other stuff. So people will probably keep Prime specifically because they're using it to order things and get free shipping. And you just happen to get a streaming service alongside of it.
Yeah, and the thing about Amazon Prime too is that like you just, it's there, and you kind of watch what's on it. They do have some really great original content, like The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is out fucking standing. Love that show. But there's a couple lightning in the bottle shows, but you only have it's because it's a smaller piece to a bigger puzzle in the tech company that is Amazon.
Right. And I think Late to the Party nails this. Think about it like Patreon. You jump on when there's content you love. You dip out when the well runs dry. There's going to be revolving subscribers constantly for a majority of these streaming companies. I completely agree with that. Yeah. I don't know. I think that some of these companies are going to get swallowed whole. I think that some of these streaming services aren't going to last. But then again, I also didn't expect us to end up in like a months-long quarantine in the middle of 2020. And that has kind of changed my outlook on streaming, because Disney's numbers spiked. Tiger King took off. Peacock dropped early. Not great, apparently, but it's there. You know, WB's coming in hot with HBO Max. Suddenly, these streaming services are the things that are keeping people sane in a way that we haven't seen in a long time. I mean, even cable ratings went up since this all started, which is crazy to me, because the idea of watching things live kind of died with Lost. Lost was like the last really watchable week in and week out TV show, I feel like, before the binge era.
I would argue Game of Thrones, but it wasn't on like people were watching
right.
it.
I'm talking about like Game of Thrones, yes, but I'm talking about like the ABCs, NBCs,
Which that also carries into how you look at cable news and sports and the role that plays in cable television and how that progresses. It's just weird. Like, it's really weird. I'm never the one to like watch a show when it drops on cable, but Brooklyn Nine-Nine started the season. I'm like, I'll just watch on Hulu the next day. And then I got bored in the house bored. And I started watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine when it aired at 8:30 EST. Because one, I love the show, but two, I literally have nothing else to do but homework.
Right. And that's exactly where we're at. And so with all this stuff going on right now with COVID, it's completely changing the landscape in a way I don't think we at all anticipated. I mean, Disney's dropping Artemis Fowl on Memorial Day weekend on Disney Plus now. And they've said that this is not the last movie that they're going to be putting on streaming.
Right.
Which is really curious because we know that a lot of next summer is going to shuffle. We're going to see a lot of movies from this year shuffle to next summer. But I kind of have to wonder, like, is Mulan the one that they're just kind of waiting to decide to drop in the middle of the quarantine and like the middle of all this?
Mulan, if in terms of Mulan, we might see a Scoop situation.
I
think that's what it's going to be closer to be because there's so much money in that movie. There's
agree.
too much money in that film.
So here is my conspiracy theory, I guess, that I have with Mulan. And I think also going forward with a lot of these movies that are coming. I have a feeling that because a lot of the rest of the world are starting to actually, they've reached their peak and they're starting to actually reopen stuff. We're doing it. New Zealand's doing it. I mean, China did it and now they're starting to regress. But obviously they've missed it. They've passed their peak. A lot of Europe are starting to reopen again because they're past their peak.
I love how behind we are, by the way. The fucking States, you're doing a marvelous job. I'm so excited to go to school in the fall. Dude, Florida, I love
Trying not to be political here. Trying really hard not to be political.
Yeah, let's not be as political as possible.
I'm more saying, from just a common sense point of view, this is not politically based. You guys are behind from the rest of the world. You guys haven't reached your peak yet. I wouldn't be surprised if Mulan opens in theaters here because we are on track to have our cinemas opening in July. That we are on track. But for you guys, they do go to Disney Plus or
real quick. Matt Whitehurst, we are aware that it has a July 24th, 2020 release date. I am 99.99999% positive theaters are not going to be open until at least September. Okay, I mean, that's my thought.
Yeah. So I'm done being political. I'm sorry about that. However, let's theorize. Mulan, right? Let's say it does a rolling like release where like it opens in different countries in different weeks. So it slowly builds up hype. And to the point, like, let's say October is the latest theaters open back up in the US. It could be later, who knows? But let's say October. And it's the last chain of theaters to open up. But let's say the movie's decent, like an 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10 even. But it's good. And everyone hears that this movie is good here. And that's the one thing that they can look into like post-quarantine. And I think there's a way for Disney to play this up because they can just drop their movie in a slot because it's Disney and they can halfway do what they want and be like, we're dropping the movie here. People are going to go into your theaters. And because there's so much hype for the movie internationally and it finally lands in the US, we might actually see like the first big movie out of quarantine be Mulan for that reason.
Mike K asked, does that mean WB is playing chicken with Tenet? Yes, they are. They're letting Nolan have way too much control. That movie needs to move to December and take Dune's date, and Dune needs to move to next year. Yeah, that is simply put the situation.
Yeah, the only, again, I can very much see a world where the rest of the world gets the movies and you guys don't. I can see that happening. I can see where some of these movies where they go, the international market is too big that we, especially like something like Mulan, I can absolutely see it. The rest of the world gets it, and you guys don't, until theaters open. And
real quick, and Matt says that means WB would have to push Wonder Woman. Yes, absolutely, and that's exactly what we're talking about right now. Is the idea being that they're playing chicken with the wrong thing right now? I know how badly Nolan wants this movie in theaters in July. I know how badly the theaters would love to reopen. The problem is right now, especially, and we'll probably talk about this on the second half of the episode, is what happens to the theaters. Like if AMC goes under, like we keep seeing with all this stuff, there's a good chance that, the biggest theater chain in all of America closes down. Then what? Like there's so many complex parts to this that playing chicken with a July release date while we're nowhere close to even getting this pandemic stuff fixed. I mean, it's crazy. I think that people are very overestimating the idea of actually even wanting to go outside when all this is said and done until there's actually a vaccine.
Yeah. So on a smaller level, I'll be there. There's a very solid chance I'm working at the student theater here at FSU in the fall, if fall's opened up by then. But what I'm hearing from my supervisors is total there's about 20 employees that work at the theater. We have like 5 people who program the films, and then we have like 3 projectionists, 8 people that work the coffee shop. They're all part-time, and then we have like 3 managers, right? The issue that we're now seeing is we have to cut funding because our theater, we're not going to get the funding that we were from the state due to obvious reasons. And so I know at least on a smaller level, and this is collegiate, so things are a little bit different. We're trying to figure out ways how we can cut funding, but also still maintain the rate of films that we're playing next year. I see a reality where theaters are playing a lot of smaller movies because they're less risky. You're not putting in as much money as you would say a failing Transformers film, something like that.
I think you're putting in things like potentially A Quiet Place 2, which didn't cost a ton of money, or The Conjuring 3, which did not cost a ton of money. Like smaller horror films or indie films, smaller dramas even. Kale brings up a really interesting point. He says, also, will government sanctions be over by July? There's a good chance, but we have to continue the path we're on. I mean, my thing is I don't think that we'll even be there because too many of the governors and too many people are just not staying inside. Look at what's happening in both Florida and California right now. People at the beaches on both sides of the country in the middle of what's supposed to be a quarantine because the governors are deciding that, well, in Florida's case, the governors decided it's okay. In California's case, people are being morons. And so that just becomes people wanting to get out. And I get it. I want to get out too. I'm going stir crazy. We're doing content every night because we want to hang out with our friends. We miss seeing people. But also, I don't want us to get sick and regress and die. And when you have someone who is not continually controlling the situation and containing the situation on a national scale, this is the situation we end up in. So it's just a weird thing. And I think that the theaters are going to be heavily impacted by this. And I think Evan brings up a good point about playing the smaller films. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah. No, you're right. The whole question does become a matter of when. I'm more curious about, I'm trying to think of like what a date right now would be an actual like date that we could say we think theaters will be open.
I just want to shout out Taylor in the chat right now. And she said, I'm not even super confident things are going to be under control by October, the way things are handled in the US, not all the way back to normal at least. And
she complimented my shirt. So like, she gets me.
Yeah. All right. So real quick, guys, we're going to take like a 2-minute break. We're going to play this clip from this last week's Suddenly Soundtracks. If you guys haven't seen it, this clip will hopefully push you over to watch it. And then when we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit more about some of the stuff that's been going on. So we will see you guys on the other side of this break.
And of course, it gave us one of the best line deliveries in motion picture history, in which I see you quiver with anticipation.
Gay! I'm sorry. Sorry.
And of course, it gave us one of the best line deliveries in motion picture history, in which I see you quiver with anticipation.
Gay! I'm sorry. Sorry.
All right. I guess we're back. I guess Chris gave us the wrong clip, you guys. I apologize. There was supposed to be a much different clip. Congratulations, Chris Clark. We don't know what just happened. So that's... Oh, man. I hope Chris is watching live.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I started pressing buttons. I'm like, maybe he put it in a different brand or something. And then my dumbass forgets whenever you open up a different brand, it drops. It drops already fucking StreamYard.
Wow.
Chris, I hope Chris was watching that live, because that
was.
At one point he was in the chat. So that's did Evan take over the controls of this? I keep wondering the same thing. Yes, he did. Well, I guess we're back. So with that, look, we've been talking about streaming services and the idea of how this has been impacting everything. But the bigger thing we need to start looking at now also is the movie theater aspect of this and how this continues to move forward. And where do we go from here? Because, I feel this whole thing is changing everything completely in so many ways. Not just movie theaters, but concert going, sporting events. Everything's going to be so different. I miss baseball and hockey so much, you guys. You have no idea. Baseball should be back right now. It's the worst. We love sports. We should probably have a sports show on this channel because all of us like sports so much.
We've talked about this.
I know.
Campbell. Anyways, but it's funny though, because even on the topic of sports, before we dive into the future of what the hell going experiences are going to be, I have been watching Red Sox highlights on rewind as we are the best team of the century so far. It's just so frustrating because I miss my Capitals, I miss my Red Sox, I just miss my sports. I grew up with them, and the fact that they're not here is just so disappointing,
We were 2 rounds into the new season of rugby league, which I know none of you guys watch, but it's an Australian sport that I happen to love. And we were 2 rounds into it. And then all this happened and they cancelled it. And we just had our big, one of the biggest weekends of the year is the Anzac Day weekend. And there was no football. And it sucked. And it was sad. And I was sad. But, oh well.
Everyone's talking about it now. I miss sports too. I put on old 49ers games on YouTube. I get it. PJ, a hockey guy, I am a huge New York Rangers fan. Anyone who knows anything about me, I'm a New York Yankees fan. I'm a New York Rangers fan. I'm a New York Knicks fan. I'm a Knicks fan. I take way too much heat already in my life being a Knicks fan. So I don't need your sass, Evan. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, you know what? Fuck you and your New York Rangers head ass. The Capitals have at least won a Stanley Cup in this decade. Just so we know.
I'm aware, thank you. But you know who else is a Rangers fan? It's Michael J. Fox.
Okay, and since what I care about what Michael J. Fox likes or doesn't like.
You should care because Michael J. Fox is a national treasure of Canada, not of America. Because
but did he find the national treasure? No, that was Nick Cage, who is also a scam.
Look, so I'm just gonna say right now, I can't wait to get back to the theater, but I'm also really thinking that when all this keeps going, there may not be as many theaters to go back to. This stuff with AMC is crazy. Them potentially, like, they're already looking to file for bankruptcy. They may not be bailed out of this situation this time because they are so far in debt. The idea of that is horrifying because they are the biggest chain in America, and I think almost worldwide. Like, they own a dominant amount of movie theaters, and the idea of them no longer existing not only impacts moviegoers and going out, it impacts the films in the studios as well. So what do you guys make of that?
So something I've thought a lot about is, I think, and this goes back to my conversation about the student theater, is we're gonna see actual, like, the warehouses that hold the theaters. So like an AMC like 18 or a Regal 20 or something like that. I think we'll see the actual amount of screens cut in half until, like, if we were to open up before a vaccine, cut in half until a vaccine, and then 2 months after. The actual screens allowed in the theater, so they can lower the amount of capacity, lower the amount of workers, so they don't have to pay those people, because, budgeting and pricing and capitalism. And I think we see a real reality where even theaters are only at half cap, like the actual theaters themselves. So instead of 200 seats in a screen, you're only allowed to sit 100 seats in a screen. I think there are going to be so many, like, precautionary details, both on an economic and also a health scale, where it won't feel the same, but you'll at least have the chance to go back out, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. It's interesting for me because I'm coming from it from a completely different perspective. Whereas in our theaters are pretty much, they've all been shut, but they're going to be pretty much okay. They should be okay afterwards. Like, we haven't had any big major news stories about Chapter 11 and stuff. So what I'm finding more interesting is what is going to the theater's going to look like afterwards in terms of more pricing. Are they going to keep A-list? Are they going to keep these attractive offers to get more people to go back to the movies? And are people going to be willing to go back to theaters, or are they just going to be like, you know what? I can just stay at home and watch these movies, and a more studio is going to be like, people aren't going to the movies. Let's just start streaming.
Well, if that's the case for everything we've been talking about, right? The idea of all these streaming services existing is completely shifted the game enough that even Disney is already looking at potentially moving other movies that they have onto streaming services. Mm-hmm. I mean, we still have the mysterious case of the New Mutants that is just not scheduled anymore. A movie that is so beyond cursed at this point.
New Mutants, I think, is its own special little case where Disney don't have the streaming rights to that movie. So I think they're like, we can't release it. We don't have the streaming rights. We have to wait until we can show it in a theater. And I think that's their problem with New Mutants.
Kale says most theaters won't have anything to show when they come back. Right now, the drive-ins only have movies from March, which Matt then goes on to say, when China tried to reopen theaters by streaming films, they were showing older films, essentially. Should our theaters try that too? I would love that, yes. However, my one thing is, would people show up? Because there's also the idea that Americans are rather lazy, and if they have things at their fingertips and they can watch it at home, why would they go out to the theaters?
Well, it's funny because even on that note, things that Americans, so I say Americans, but you get the things that film goers would show up to, something like Star Wars already costs so much money in a second run theater. So if you're trying to re-release it on a grander scale, I know it costs, the number is around like $2,000 to play something like Star Wars, a single Star Wars movie. It costs $2,000 to play for over 3 days. That's a lot of fucking money.
Yeah, it is. And it's only going to get more expensive when you see companies like Disney holding the rights to everything. Right. That's where you run into these problems because, I mean, look, I am not one of the people who is like, Disney is a monopoly, Disney is the devil, they're destroying the cinema landscape. I don't necessarily subscribe to all that, but I am terrified of them owning so many rights to things that playing revival screenings of things becomes almost impossible because Disney's already notoriously hard on trying to even make revival screenings happen. Like, I've heard horror stories about since the Fox acquisition where people who had screenings of Fox films lined up having that pulled because Disney doesn't want to allow theaters to play it. And I don't really want that.
Like at the end of the day, it's just gonna be weird. Because I'm one of those guys where I don't know if I would go out yet without a vaccine. Like go out to social events. It's a lot of it's personal, right? I'm probably gonna be forced to go back to school. Sadly, from my understanding, we're just in a really sticky situation where you want to limit your social outings as much as possible, but also is that the mentally healthy thing to do? So it's just so weird, like the construct of what is to come, because it's so unknown, is really mind blowing, and it's really hard to actually take a grasp of that even on a grander level because you just don't know.
I appreciate where Matt Whitehurst is coming from. He goes, a few years ago, I saw Young Frankenstein on the big screen. And yeah. I mean, I get it, dude. I try to go to the theater anytime I can, but we're also in a smaller bubble. And that's the thing I think that sometimes we forget is we are in a bubble. All of us here on this channel right now who love movies the way we do, or who love media the way that we do and how we intake it, we are not the norm. And I'm okay saying that. I mean, look behind me, look around me. We are not the norm. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I love the theater going experience. For me, going to the theater is basically church for me. Like, it's a religious experience.
Right.
So I want it to be back so badly, because for me, it brings something out of me that I don't think we see outside of going to church for some people. Like, that's how going to the theater feels to me. That's why when people get on their phones when you watch a movie, I get mad and I want to throw things and scream at them and tell them to get out. Go find Jesus somewhere else, because I don't want you being distracted and distracting me while while I'm watching my movie.
Yeah, Jacob.
No, I agree. But I also do think that every time we try and do second run movies, every time we try and play in Australia, every time we try and play older run films, they never perform ever. I think they do maybe 50, 60, maybe 70 people tops. And that's in a 400 seat cinema. Like, I've never walked into and when I used to, and that was my job, when I used to have to book them and run them and organize these screenings, I remember, like, there were movies that I wanted to do, and I would just be like, I can't, because I will sell 10 tickets to that, and it will be great for those 10 people. And my boss will come up to me the next day and say, why the hell did you play that movie?
Right.
And that's the problem. My one night and then to go to what Evan said before about other theaters, about how much they cost. We had it lined up, perfectly lined up. We were going to do Indiana Jones. We were going to do the Indiana Jones original trilogy. We were going to do 1, 2, and 3.
You're missing a good movie out of that.
Yeah, Stop. Well, I only had the time to do 1, 2, and 3.
PJ, you nutcase.
We had it all lined up. My boss was completely okay with it. We got the okay, and then Paramount wanted 35 cents, and we stop at 30 cents in the dollar.
Right.
And it was like, cool. This event that we would have sold out 400 tickets for was all over 5 cents.
And here's what we also have to think about, because to your point of what you just said, like, it's crazy when you think about it, but are the studios going to have the leverage that they had before with the theaters, or are the theaters going to have the leverage now when all this is said and done? And what does that cost us?
Yeah.
In the long run? Like, that becomes concerning as well, because we've already seen these battles take place over the last decade. Remember the entire battle with Disney and AMC to begin with over Iron Man 3 and the profits of that, and how the ticket prices were supposed to be split? Mm-hmm. It could only get worse now. And that's a weird thing to think about.
Well, here's the thing. And here, my theory, I think, still stands, at least until things are settled. The number of screens is going to be limited. It like economically just makes too much sense not to limit the amount of screens in your theater, and also on a health level too. So when you do that, the theaters have the upper hand. We're like, we can only play this much movies,
right?
So give us a good offer, or we're not going to play your film.
But then the other option for the studios to go look at what Trolls just did.
And that's kind of where we're at. And it's weird, man, because the entire thing feels like it's shifting.
Like, I get what you're saying, Evan, where they go, we've got limited space to play all of our movies. And the studios can go, great, we could just put it directly and give it directly to our customers. And we get 100%, or we get 70% because Apple have a 30% markdown. Like, they take 30% cut. We get 70%, and that's 70% forever and always. Like, that's the other thing, is because studios get 70. Opening weekend 90%, second weekend 80. It goes down in increments. Like, it's not a one and done thing. So it's interesting. I mean, I'm the aspect of all this that I'm the most curious about, and what I'm finding more fascinating than anything, is when do studios start marketing?
Yeah, and that's the other question, because some of them, we already know that they blew through the marketing budgets, because like Mulan was pushed like right before it was supposed to come out. They had spent all their money on
A Quiet Place did everything. It had done all of its marketing.
I know, and that's what I mean.
Same with Bond.
No Time to Die, Mulan, and A Quiet Place 2 are all in a very awkward position, because now it's up to the studios if they're willing to open the purse strings even a little more to continue marketing those movies when they finally come out. And that's a scary thought, because Mulan already cost a ton of money. And do you roll the dice now, especially with, do you know if people even show up? And
but then say a movie like, I don't know, this is going to hurt you, Pete, but Bill and Ted.
I know, but I still contend that Bill and Ted is the perfect VOD movie.
Yeah, but with that, when do you release the first trailer? Like, say you are going to go for a theater release and you are looking at August being your date, okay?
Right.
When do you release the first trailer?
I would just do it online. I mean, that's the thing. Online marketing, they don't really have to worry about that, because everything they've done with Bill and Ted is different than everything else. Because
what date do you put?
You literally decide that you're just going to do it on VOD, and you just release the trailer in the middle of all this. Like,
Tenet then. Like, that's what I'm trying to get at, is how do you market a movie right now when you do not know when you're opening?
I know, and I agree. And that's the thing right now, right? That's what we're talking about. There is movies that can overcome it. I would even say, as crazy as this sounds, Conjuring 3 is like a perfect WB HBO Max type of VOD release in the middle of all this. Because
I disagree.
My reasoning being is that it's an IP that you wouldn't have to market. It's the third film in that trilogy, but it's also like the 9th film in that series.
But PJ, look at it this way. Conjuring 3, I don't know where it is in production, but like, let's say the film's done, right?
Right.
Let's say we don't know the release date for it.
It's supposed to come out in September.
So
that's my point, is I'm trying to look at the stuff that's dated right now.
But imagine if things keep getting pushed and pushed. It would be the perfect surprise release. Like, we don't know when it drops, but 1 week before it goes in theaters, hey, we're releasing Conjuring 3. Go see it.
But that's what we're talking about right now, is with everything going on, we don't know when you can drop this stuff.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Imagine if they do that, though, because that you have a surprise drop and people don't see it coming, but people will flood the theaters for that movie. For better or worse.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And that's my thing. And that's what I'm saying, is that you're almost better off. To your point, the surprise release, do it on VOD. Do it on where you don't know it and you surprise people in the middle of what's going on. And I think that this is kind of the push and shove or push and pull, however you want to say, that these studios are going to face now, because the entire landscape is completely different from here on out. Like, we were already at a place where theater going was already incremental at best compared to what it used to be. I mean, yes, the biggest movie of all time came out last year, but this year was already off to an incredibly sluggish start comparative to the year before. And
right.
Better.
I mean, let's look at a film like Dune. Okay. It's clear by now the trailer was going to drop. Like they had just done the EW marketing. There was that the official title dropped that got shown. Like the Dune trailer was going to have been dropped by now,
right?
But they don't know when the release date is. Like they don't know, can we actually release this in December? So, and that's what I'm more getting at, because Malcolm brings up a point here. He says, I think Tenet might benefit from not having any marketing, as it will lessen the impact of any spoilers. I agree with that. But at the same time, I go, no, I agree that it will lessen the impact of spoilers, potentially.
Right.
You've got to tell people the movie's coming, though.
And
like, people don't know the movie's coming.
Right. And so here's to Robert and Vanessa's point with Late to the Party. They said, as someone who saw Bill and Ted in theaters, Face the Music needs to see it on the big screen. We can wait. I would love to, too. But when I see on social media 5 days ago them posting that this is coming out in 4 months, that tells me that they're probably considering the VOD drop, because they're not backing down on their marketing campaign already. And Abby, we're not trying to make anyone sad. It's just like the reality of the situation we're in. It's just a totally different thing now. Like it's weird.
And Mike K's right. A surprise drop really only works for VOD, and I agree with that. You can't do a surprise drop in a theater. It's just never going to work. And it will leak. Definitely leak. VOD, you can get away with it.
The only time it works is if you're doing like a single screening at Comic-Con, which is what Lionsgate did before with Blair Witch.
But what again, Conjuring's one that I don't think would work VOD, because such a giant aspect of that movie is the crowd. Like, it's a horror film. You need to see that with a crowd to get the enjoyment out of it.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I can still watch horror films at home. You're not wrong. Don't get me. I mean, The Conjuring is one of my all-time favorite theater-going experiences ever. And this is why I never want the theater experience to go away, because it is. The Conjuring still, to this day, is in easily my top 10 of all-time theater-going experiences. It was that good. But we also have to look at a landscape where that is not potentially possible. And that's something we really have to come to terms with. Like, it just is crazy to me.
And people saying here, like, movies like the Nun dropped its first trailer in July. Again, smaller movies can do this. We're talking the big blockbusters. There is a reason why you get a trailer. Like, there is a reason Top Gun released its trailer a year in advance, and it had nothing to do with the fact that it was Comic-Con weekend. It had everything to do with the fact that, hey, let's hype this movie up early. Right. You need to start getting people talking about these movies. Well, Star Wars dropped its first trailer. There's a reason why only Force Awakens had a trailer a year and a bit in advance. The other two didn't do it.
Malcolm says wasn't Cloverfield stealthily dropped into theaters? No, it was not. There was a huge
trailer was,
and the trailer sold it. And 10 Cloverfield Lane had a much smaller marketing campaign because they dropped the trailer for that 2 months out. But it was there was still a marketing campaign.
And then Cloverfield Paradox was the surprise drops. Cloverfield Paradox is your surprise drop. That's how they did it.
And that was VOD. And streaming, which is what we're talking about. Late to the Party said nostalgic sequels will wait it out. Coming to America, Bill and Ted and Ghostbusters all made their names in the theater. All waited ages for sequels. They'll wait it out. I mean, maybe Sony.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
It does for some of them. I mean, I still contend Coming to America, that feels like it could even be a VOD release. Because
if it wasn't Paramount, I would agree. If it wasn't Paramount, I would agree with you.
Paramount makes weird decisions. That's more
why
Paramount
are in trouble, and I feel like this could be $1 billion hit.
But they also have Top Gun now in December.
Yeah, and that's so. I've been saying this for a while. If Coming to America is ready and theaters open in, say, August or September, I'd be pulling Coming to America first. A good comedy. An Eddie Murphy comedy, as long as it's good and it gets that buzz, I'd be sending screeners to critics at home to be talking about it, saying it's coming this weekend.
Yeah, I'm with Abby. Everything except Ghostbusters could be a VOD, and that's why Sony already moved it. Like, Sony knew Ghostbusters was going to be a theatrical release. They moved it to next year. Whereas I think that Bill and Ted is like the perfect example of fandom kept that movie alive. I mean, Sony already did another Ghostbusters film.
But here's the thing. You can say it could be VOD, which anything theoretically could be VOD, right? But we're also talking about studios which we talked about way earlier in today's stream, where they don't want to take risks. They're there for the money when they see it. Dropping something on VOD is one of the biggest risks right now because you just don't know yet. I would say Trolls 2 did incredibly, but that is the only sample size that we have. And now imagine a PG-13 R-rated film that drops.
I agree with Abby. I think that people, and again, I am a huge Bill and Ted fan. I'm just saying that I think that something like that, which the fandom kept it alive for so long, that clearly screams to me, release that kind of comedy in the middle of all of this on VOD and people will tune into it. Like, that would probably put more butts in seats in the long run than if you put it in theaters.
I don't disagree. Do you really think studios are going to be smart or progressive enough to do that? Not progressive as in politically, but like on a business forward mindset where they can finally invest and understand, but here's the thing, that will forever change the industry.
But it's already started.
Ready for that.
Because as you were talking about, it's already started with Trolls. We're seeing it with Scoob. Yeah, those are the family films. But the thing you have to realize now is now that it's starting and you have Artemis Fowl moving to streaming, the studios are already starting to do that. It's less of a risk because you can almost write it off versus if you're putting the extra money into the marketing and stuff, because you can put like a single trailer out online and potentially not cost much in marketing instead of doing an entire print and ad campaign.
Right. Jacob.
Here's my thing, and I get that what Abby is saying when she says we're overestimating Coming to America, and I'm not. But what I'm trying to say by that is, we have seen this every time after a tragedy, after something like this, where people want an escape. Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter do not do the numbers that they do any other year except the year of 9/11.
But it also was not literally a pandemic that was keeping people inside. That's the difference.
After the Spanish flu, Charlie Chaplin blew up. Again, that's my thing, is people are going to want a laugh. And I think a comedy in a theater could be the thing to help.
It could. I just don't know, man. Especially like with what we're talking about, like Top Gun moving to December. That is all on Paramount now. They've already moved their biggest film of the year to December. Mm-hmm. You're not going to want to compete with yourself with Coming to America. Is it counter programming a few weeks later? Yes, but also Dolomite was huge last year on VOD,
mm-hmm.
and what did also Paramount shuffle for them next is Beverly Hills Cop 4, which just moved to Netflix and VOD. So It's not like they're out of the question now of working with Eddie Murphy's films on a VOD platform, especially because Paramount is already in bed with them.
It's just weird because I would much rather watch these movies at home. I'd rather put on Disney Plus or HBO Max and be like, all right, we're watching these movies. Let's fucking go. However, I still and this is just me and my anti-capitalist behavior. I do not believe that theaters are putting their best interest in their viewers. They're afraid and they want to do what works. And what has proven to work, which isn't even true, filmmaking is a risk, is going to be putting these films in the theater. And they will wait, have these films on the shelves for as long as they can because that's what they know. And it is hard to change and progress a business past that because that is your business, is in the theaters.
Well, and again, to Abby's point, I'm kind of with her on the idea of our people want to go to the theaters? And I understand what Jacob's saying, but I think that we're just at such a different point because I also think there's literally people out here who just will not go outside and don't want to until there's a vaccine. And that's the thing. Like, we're in a very different time. And right. I think it's shifting everything in a way that we're not anticipating in like all the right moves. I mean, I don't have every answer, obviously, but I just think that there's some of these films that you can look at on the slate, especially when someone like Disney has already said there's other movies that we're supposed to put out that are just not going to theaters. They're just not going to.
And I can agree. The thing that got me thinking about where the theaters are and their mindsets are They've delayed. Not one of them has actually announced we're going to put anything on VOD except Warner Brothers and Universal, and both of them are kids' movies. That's my thing.
Lionsgate put out what was the one with Archie from Riverdale? The one about it was I Still Believe or something. The one about the singer.
Oh, that came out in theaters here, so I don't know if that was already out. If you guys, but it was in theaters here. Okay, but that's what I mean. But you couldn't rent it; you had to buy it.
The bigger point, though, is like this is a totally different thing now, and these studios are looking at it. We hear them looking at it. Thank you, Abby. Jeremy Camp. Yes, but we have to understand now, like the playing field is just going to be obliterated in a way we're not expecting. And
yeah, I don't know. I just have a gut feel that that we aren't going to see as big of a change as you're anticipating. I don't know why. And we can go back and check the tape, and I can be completely wrong, and the whole world has changed. I don't know. I have a gut feel that studios don't want to be on VOD. They want to be able to release in theaters because it's more money.
I mean, but it's not more money to put it on. Like, is it more money that you might make? Maybe. But also, if people aren't showing up to the theater, what's the difference? Either way, you're losing the money, and that's what we have to remember. I don't want the theater-going experience to go away. None of us here do. But I also have to be realistic in that if the attendance is not there, then what?
Here's the thing. We don't know. Like, that's the issue. Yeah. We don't know how the public's going to react in 6 months. I'm saying 6 months as a precedent. We just don't know. And like, that's the issue. The public is weird in how they react to things. They're unpredictable, and that's what I was saying earlier about with like Trolls and Scoob. They're family films. I'm waiting for a landmark PG-13 or RVOD to make like an actual like.
That's the thing we're gonna have to see. But I mean, again, Universal came out the gate with they were the first ones to do VOD. Period. Yes, some of them had already been in theaters, but like the first things they did were The Hunt, Emma, and Invisible Man. It's not out of the question to continue to do stuff like that.
No, and I agree, but I'm waiting for that one film and see how it performs. Like that one that we all had a good feeling about in theaters doing well.
Mulan would be the real test. If Disney decided to pull the trigger and put Mulan on VOD, and
I agree.
Mulan went like through the roof, that would be the thing that would literally set this.
And it will. And you are right. If my counter to yours are people are willing to go outside. Look,
they're willing to go outside, but are they willing to go to a theater? Like that's
right now they're closed. I think they would. So right now they're closed.
Jacob, they were already not going. That's the problem. That's why AMC is currently filing for bankruptcy.
They were going. They just weren't going. They were going to specific movies. They weren't going to smaller budgeted films. They were going to the big blockbusters. The box office has improved year on year. But it's only going to smaller movies. By
cutting the middleman out, it's the sweet spot for the studios, and that's what you're doing. Like, or to Matt Whitehurst's point, Wonder Woman 84. That's another one that could do it. Like going outside and going to a theater, different things, according to Abby. And The Hunt lost money. I don't know how much. I wouldn't say a ton. It was a smaller Blumhouse film, so I'm not going to say it was a ton. And Invisible Man was a hit. It was a hit. It was a big hit for a smaller budgeted film. I'm not going to pretend it wasn't. Like, it made pretty good money for being one of their smaller releases. I mean, enough that they had already given Weissman, or not Weissman, the director, he's already got another deal with them. So, I mean, I know that that's a thing to look at.
Invisible Man did pretty well.
Invisible Man was a hit, but it had been out for a month and about 6 weeks before it went to VOD.
You know, Invisible Man definitely was a hit because it was on a $7,000 budget. We'll say like a $20 million marketing campaign, and it made $122 million worldwide. Holy shit! Shout out to this man, dude.
It was a big hit. I mean, again, because they spent no money, and that's an entirely another subject. But this whole thing should also force the studios to look at the budgets of some of these movies because they could be making that kind of money on a movie that good all the time. we're totally missing the idea of what the middle film should look like. Like those middle ground films that the 90s was littered with and the 80s were littered with. We don't see those as often. Like the John Wick films even cost like 60 to 70 million. So the idea that if you were trying to do more stuff like that, but you could do it in a way that you cut down on it, some of this wouldn't even be a problem then.
Yeah, I am personally waiting for what I imagine the landmark middle ground film of me growing up was Gone Girl. So I'm kind of waiting for our next Gone Girl, where it had that mid-range budget, but it was boom.
I know they were gone before this, Abby. That my point is more that like I think that this should be a place where it forces the studios to reevaluate, because some of these films, like Mulan, cost a lot of money. So shuffling it to VOD is the kind of thing that is potentially detrimental to them, because they may not make the money, obviously. And that's why I think this whole pandemic totally changes the entire landscape of Hollywood, like in a way that could be anticipated and felt for years.
I think we are going to be feeling the effects of this for years. I don't think it changed. I don't think there's going to be a gigantic change to Hollywood. I think that it is going to have, we are going to feel the long-term effects of movies that were being pushed and changed and chopped around. And it's going to have, I think this is going to have the effect that the writer's strike had in 2007. I think.
To Kale's point, Mulan actually did not cost even like 200 million. I know that number's been kicked around a lot. I think it's been greatly exaggerated. I can't say why I feel that way, but I feel like that number is greatly exaggerated outside of 200 million with print and advertising, maybe.
PJ drinks and he knows things. That's all I have to say.
I drink and I know things. So I don't really know where else we can go with this. I think that we've kind of run the course on this conversation on what it
I'd like to make one more point, please.
Okay.
Is that okay? Thank you, PJ, because I know we're wrapping up, and I guess this is a segue. This is what they call a segue. Sorry for my accent. Anyway,
why are you acting like the dude from The Room right now?
Exactly. I know. But anyways, what this is teaching me, at least, is a lot of patience, because all three of us have three different perspectives on this.
Yep.
On how this could work, and none of us are a producer in Hollywood right now, so we don't know the conversation right now. Guys, if you're looking for an intern right now, hit me up. I'm looking for internships. I can work wherever you need me to. I will risk my life. Thank you. But anyways, what I'm learning at this point is a lot of patience, because we don't have answers. Sadly, we just don't know. I want to be able to go back into the movie theater and watch Avengers Endgame, but that might not happen. I want to be able to go back into the theater and watch Top Gun. Believe it or not, yes, I'm excited for that movie. There's just so many ifs, ands, or buts, and I view studios one way, Jacob views studios another way, PJ views studios another way. I just think that like at the end of the day, there's nothing that we can really do outside of talking with our pockets, which means either we buy VODs, we pay for the subscriptions, or we don't.
Right.
And I can personally say I really don't think that I'm going to end up paying for a lot of VODs, because that's a lot of $20 charges, $20, and you can see my pockets going to streaming services.
Well, it's good that I'm the one who's doing it, and the rest of you have the access to my Movies Anywhere account. It doesn't work that loud.
We love PJ.
But that's where I know I can see my money going. And obviously you two are different than I am, but wherever our money goes, that's where the studios will listen. And I think that's what it's going to be.
Robert, I know, according to multiple sources, but I know someone who was a lot closer to the production that has refuted that. Again, the 200 million is closer with print and advertising than the actual production, apparently. I'm not going to say for sure. That is just, I'm taking the person that I know at their word on that situation. So, with that, do you have anything else you would like to add to the stream before we call it a night?
I'm good now.
You're good now?
If you guys are interested and want to go back and see
if Nicky Caro says it's 200 million, then maybe that was with the reshoots. I'm just going off of what I was told from people closer to the production that I knew. I don't have any other answer than that, but
Shots
it is what it is. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm excited for that movie regardless.
I am too.
So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, I guess, really what it costs either way, because we actually also don't know what it's going to do.
No, we really don't. So if you're interested, I had a discussion about this exact topic about a month ago that is now completely out of date because of how much has changed within a date, within a month. But yeah, that's on on the Finally Tailored YouTube channel if you are interested in going back and checking that one out.
Evan, why don't you take us through what's going on for the rest of the week one last time?
All right, here we fucking go. So tomorrow, Lilo and Stitch. I'm really excited for this. PJ, I know you are. I adore this movie to bits and pieces. It's just really wholesome, and it tells a really great story about a broken family that is almost not broken for that very reason. So I'm really hyped for this. I'm gonna skip today's announcement because I'm making it. And then Wednesday, Mary Poppins watch along. That's gonna be a lot of fun. I believe Kristen Smith is gonna be on that with Chris Clark and other cast of characters. I absolutely adore that movie, which is why I was on the Suddenly Soundtracks with Rachel Silvestrini. So we joined Chris Clark to talk about one of the greatest musicals of all time. Yes, Jacob, close your trap. And then we also have Grey Showman watch along May 6th, and we will be re-airing probably the best Suddenly soundtrack to date from May 7th. So then on top of that, we got Friday. We are starting Rian Johnson month with Brick. I'm really excited for this movie. Jacob's going to be on it. Guess what, PJ? Maxwell Haddad is going to be on this one.
Hey, you got it right.
I remembered. Love you, Max. And I'm really excited for Rian Johnson month because all these movies, from my understanding, are really great. I've seen Looper. I've seen The Last Jedi. I've seen Knives Out. They're really good movies. But I'm really excited to explore Brick and Brothers Bloom because it's kind of like seeing where he's coming from. And that's really important. Last but not least, I've shown this thumbnail. Make sure you guys watch Family Game Night from last night. Our funniest one yet. Tom Dagnino is a national treasure. Protect him or destroy him at all costs. Whatever you choose to do. Don't quote me on that. He is his own stigma. He is his own enigma. But Sam Franco is also really fucking funny in that one. I had a really good blast. And then next Saturday, we're also doing Jackbox, which is going to be a shit ton of fun because the first time we all peed our pants. And I think next time we're going to end up shitting our pants. And so with that, my last announcement is Famous Last Words tomorrow with Abby Friel. I'm really excited for the conversation. I think week by week, the shows have been getting better, and I really hope it keeps getting better and better. I'm really excited for the conversation because it's one that I think needs to be had. It's one I was telling PJ. I want the community to see it because they should and they need to. But with that, yeah, those are the announcements.
All right. So, Jacob, where can everyone find you online?
You guys can find me at Jacob Blunden on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and you can also find us over at the Finally Tailored YouTube channel. We just did a movie bracket for the best non-MCU Marvel films with these two idiots, as well as Late to the Party and Patrick Hogue, which was a lot of fun. So make sure you guys go out and check that one out. Also follow our 10 Years On show, where every week we look back at the films released 10 years ago today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, my friend. I hope you're staying safe down there, and we will see you soon. What? All right. Evan, where can everyone find you?
You guys can find me here at Evan Degraff Live on Twitter, where I post and tweet things. Check out my bio. Video Drew said she loves it. Maybe she doesn't. I don't know. And then also, I need to change my remarks. Famous Last Words isn't tomorrow. It's on Tuesday. It's on Tuesday. That's all I have to say. And I appreciate you having me on. I'm excited for next week's PJ Campbell show, which I think you can announce.
Oh yeah, actually, give me, vamp a little bit. I can show that in a second.
So a bunch of filler. Let me tell you guys something. Last week, I was walking this dog, and the dog turned around and he asked me, "Bro, what do you think about this COVID issue?" And I was like, "I don't know."
All right,
COVID?
we're done. You're good.
Did you find it?
Yeah, I did. We're good.
I did.
We are going to be doing the top 10 Disney parks attractions. Maxwell Haddad is going to be on the show with us. Evan Degraff is going to be there. That is definitely a young Evan and definitely a very.
I don't know how Chris got this image. Like, I honestly, to God, do not know how the fuck Chris got that picture of me.
He scoured my Instagram to find all those pictures of me from when I worked at Disney. So that is a thing that happened, but we are going to be talking theme park attractions, and it is going to be a blast. I am trying to get Abby on. We're going to see if that works out. But, you know, I can't wait to talk about theme park attractions because it is much more exciting. It is way more exciting than talking about, you know, other
But PJ, what's so interesting about it is like you and I have two different expertise on this.
Yes.
Like Walt Disney World is like my child.
Yeah. Well, I think that Max is actually going to be bringing like stuff from around the world with him, which is going to be very interesting. So I'm very excited.
All right. Well, PJ, I'm glad you had me on. You know I was going to act weird today. And I hope I followed through.
You did. I agree with Malcolm. I don't want to know how Chris gets his images. Abby looks very shocked about everything. So with that, Evan, I will see you on the other side. Of course, you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at PJ_Campbell. If you have not already, you should subscribe to this channel. Hit the little subscribe button. Hit the like button below. We are very happy to have you guys here. And just come back every night, 7 p.m. PST, 10 p.m. EST. We're doing new content every day. I can't wait to do Lilo and Stitch with everyone. So we will see you guys next Sunday on the PJ Campbell Show, talking our top 10 Disney attractions. It is going to be a lot of fun. Until then, we will see you guys around.
Please leave this office.
Do we get any sort of souvenir?
Get out of my office!
I'll be back.
I gotta pay.
Throw me a frickin' bone here. I'm the boss. Need the info.
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
Heavy is the head that eats the crayons. I'm gonna take a nap. See you in 10 hours.
Dude, I almost had you. You almost had me. You never had me.
I like your style, dude.